over the course of my career, I really believed it was important to have a voice and to speak up. Not because I was a woman, no, but it was more important that I think all voices could be heard to achieve the best outcomes, to making sure that we were tapping on the best leadership. Many women who did speak up, unfortunately, weren't heard. Not only is this a loss for women, but it was a loss for organizations to not really have the full voice of individuals around the table. So I founded Shambaugh about 20 years ago. Instead of sitting on the sidelines, I decided to address this and do something about this so we could have all voices on deck. Now let me share with you a personal story of why I am here today standing in front of you. You know, just after my graduating from Purdue University, back in the late 1970s, I took a job with General Motors. While I thought my first day started off fairly well, I ran into a series of challenges that I didn't expect. I was the first woman, by the way, to step on the manufacturing floor as a production manager with GM. But one of the first things I had to do was to prove my worth, that I had, a reason to be here, because people really believed that I didn't have any business being there as a woman and in the manufacturing floor. And one of my peers tried to sabotage me and took parts from his department and rolled them down my assembly line, which you can imagine what was going to happen around the quality and the control of all the parts. So I really believe this was like an out-of-body experience. I believe this was almost like one of those hushed movies you just didn't want to talk about. Another memorable moment was at my very first management meeting at GM, my first day. I came into the room and I looked out in front of me and there were 17 men in 17 blue suits looking at me like they were all looking at me. And I sat down with my knees shaking underneath the table. And the general manager, Jim, says, "Well, Becky, welcome to the management team. It's great to have you here." And then he politely looked over at me and he said, "Would you mind taking notes?" I looked at Jim and I, kind of with a firm smile, I said, "Thank you, Jim, but no, I don't know how to take notes. But I do have a lot of other reports and information and perspective I'd really like to share and get your opinion on this very first day." However, that message that Jim sent to me really made me feel like I didn't really belong there. And I really began to believe there was this glass ceiling, which I'd heard of for many, many years. Didn't really believe it, but I really felt that moment that I hit it. So, while we're in the 21st century now, we've come a long way, but sometimes I wonder if we really have come that far. And if you have more women in leadership roles, is not just a nice thing to do, but it's a smart business thing to do. That deeper sense of collaboration and being able to connect and bring out the best of ideas that are around us. And this whole notion of having a deep sense of a cultural awareness. In today's global economy, we're surrounded by rich diversity wherever we go, whether that's gender, age, culture. It's really, how do we get the best out of this diverse environment and to encourage people to do work at that discretionary level? Companies with a greater number of women in sales, interestingly enough, outperform those with less by 42%. And companies with a higher percentage of women to help steer the organization experience a return on investment of 66%. However, the call for women is also important to lean in and to aim for the executive suite, which has become now a national movement and an international movement. And if you look at just Congress here in the United States, about 19% of those congressional seats are filled by women. Women make up close to 4.65% of CEOs leading Fortune 500 companies in the United States. Now you could say we've made progress over the last 30 years, but in the context of which we're operating in, not so good. Sometimes what got us here as a manager may not get us there as a leader. Sometimes as a senior director, what got us here won't get us there to be a VP or an SVP. So we need to take a look within ourselves and to examine our own belief systems that could be holding us back. And those belief systems are actually what I call the invisible layer. And this is where it all starts. So what we hear all the time is, I'm not senior enough, so I'm not going to speak up. I think probably everybody else will know what they need to say. So we need to delete those beliefs that are self-limiting for ourselves. We need to delete those narratives that shift from I'm not ready to yes, I can. One very important thing we can do as female leaders is to reframe our own belief systems, change our internal narrative. Some of these narratives that hold us back from our best self, we've heard about. Be aware of those. Be aware of when you're saying, I'm not ready, I'm not qualified, or I don't want to offend anybody, so I'm not going to speak up. Executives, when they meet you within the first 20 seconds, they want to know your accomplishments. They want to know your greatness. They want to know what value that you're bringing to the organization, to your team, and to your customer. Have a brand that emulates that and be intentional about sharing that with others. People who don't know you that need to know you. People, they need to start having those experiences with you to see your best self. I encourage you to step back and ask yourself, how well are you demonstrating that strength with women around you, with those up and coming, aspiring young women leaders? So see yourself as a mentor, pull other women up, and as you rise, may you also lift those behind you. But here's what I want you to do today. In order to finally achieve this goal of gender equality, not just because it's a nice thing to do, because we now know it's a smart business thing to do, we all need to step up. We all need to step in as women and men in the organization to have a common goal to make this work, because it benefits everyone. This might call for your organization to start re-examining their culture, re-examining their practices, re-examining how they're really reviewing and pulling talent up in the organization. If you're a man, it's understanding that your personal role and the legacy you have as a leader. I encourage you to be good integrated leaders as you represent the major population still of executives and leaders in your organizations today. And be vigilant, valuing and tapping on and leveraging the best of those diverse teams of talent. So as male and female leaders, let's all move beyond those unintentional biases, or what I call blind spots, and how they impact our own productivity. These differences are a reality, and they are, if leveraged, a competitive advantage for your organization and those around you. That might mean for you as women to re-examine your strategic network, your relationships, and forge a relationship with a male colleague to really bring them into your interactions and inviting them to really support you and have that sort of cooperative relationship. Together, if we all take action, we will build the world we want to see. We will make this a better world for those around us and for our children coming up in their careers as well. But this is the question: who will step up and make it happen? Are you ready? I hope you will be. May you all enjoy this journey together. Thank you very much.